Mr. Jha, thanks. Just coming to you. Uh, to truly build factories of the future, right? I mean, how should key stakeholders approach workforce transformation, and what digital tools can serve as an ideal starting point for that?
No, thanks, Rudra, for the question. And I was very intently hearing all the panelists, and I particularly could identify with what Sanjay was saying, which is that the dairy industry ultimately is an 8 lakh crore industry, which is more than milk, wheat, and rice put together. So we are fighting about those things. We're not looking at creating a paradigm. So I think the biggest thing is the educational paradigm, and the entire what I call the 4E model. Education is not linked to employability. Employability is not linked to employment, and employment is not linked to entrepreneurship. So you have a decadal education system, which the carcass, I'm afraid, will survive another 10 years, though the body died almost 5 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago. There is the whole thing about the entrepreneurship, the nature and the behavior of entrepreneurship that was getting sparked, the SME versus the larger industry, and SMEs are more innovative and SMEs employ more people. But how do you get that sorted out, and how do you make distributed manufacturing happen? I think the third part about the whole thing is, where does the talent come from? So the way I look at this is that the pandemic has opened up a couple of behavior possibilities. So employees are now, as was being said. So let's take three companies. Let's take POSCO, Baushan Steel, Tata Steel. These are the three companies in the world that have got between them four lighthouse identity sites. So there are 52 World Economic Forum Industry 4.0 lighthouse identity sites. The steel industry has four of those sites. It's distributed, two with Tata Steel and one each with POSCO and Baushan Steel. What does Tata Steel do well? Tata Steel has gone ahead with projects, say, making analytics real, valuable, efficient, and logical. That was our beachhead project to drive through analytics. And our Kalinganagar plant was ramped up in 5 years, completely born on analytics. So the productivity levels and the level of visibility that we got there, we didn't have in Jamshedpur. Now we do have, but we have it about 113 years of our existence. Now the talent model to drive that, the business model to drive that, is particularly the thing that all, and the ecosystem model to drive that. I mean, there are things we have taken from Microsoft, which is anytime, any place, anywhere compute. There are things we have taken from Google, which is our entire analytics cloud platform. There are things which we have taken from AWS, which is our entire subsidiary, what we call mission critical cloud, and we have got the entire mission critical cloud and our core cloud running on IBM. So just to make a point that it's all these technology providers which have come together, and the point that Siddharth was making, it's about the adoption and adaptation of technology. That capability, how do I continuously identify and retire technology debt? That is, I think, the first thing that all stakeholders need to do, because these factories have a lot of technology debt. Over that, I would take the point that Indrumna was making, which is the use case drive. I mean, just to shorten what he said two things. He says time to oil and time off oil. Minimize the time to oil and maximize the time from oil. So that's the layer of the use case of what you're trying to do. I think the third layer on top of that is what Amit was saying, which is that, look, this pandemic is almost like manufactured, right? It's kind of here to expedite the technology adoption. So how do I reimagine the workplace of the future rather than re-engineer the workplace of the past? I find there's a very dangerous behavior of everybody trying to go back to the normal. uh, I think the normal is already here. I mean, I was talking to TCS and I was saying, this is amazing. You're saying that in 2025, you're going to be 75% in out of the workplace and 25% in the workplace. And your operating ratios are 97% to 3 today, and you're still operating. Why would you go back to that model? And and so there are some of these things where management is probably, because I think nobody thought the pandemic would last so long. So would I, if I were a betting man, would I put my money in a company which is trying to go back to the past, or would I bet my money in a company which is trying to reinvent the future? And I think last but not the least is the point that both Sanjay and Arun were making, which is on Sanjay's side, the point he was making that you need a strategic fit on top of that. You need a strategic blueprint to create a dairy revolution for your, whether it's reinventing the hydrocarbon chain, whether it's the ACES model of autonomous connected energy and sharing, which is what's disrupting the car industry, and you've seen Tesla's market cap, or overcoming some of the challenges of remote management. I mean, the Chinese, why is Baoshan? So coming back to the Baoshan, and I'll stop there. The Baoshan and POSCO. POSCO has a dark plant. So we are pretty strong in advanced analytics, so we are an industry 4.0 site. But POSCO has a dark plant, which means if you have no person in the plant, why do you need lights? And Baoshan Steel can run its blast furnaces, the most complicated and dangerous piece of chemical equipment known to mankind, from 3,500 kilometers away. Now,
Wow.
as Amit was saying, we can see our blast furnaces from my home, and now nobody questions what to do. But everybody is saying, in a country which is 22% fiber, with the speeds we have, versus China, which is 80% fiber, with the speeds and reliability and latency that they have, can you take that risk of running the blast furnace from even 2 kilometers away? Answer is probably no, because the municipal commission will go and dig up the one fiber, and we'll realize that the primary and the secondary were for the same guy. So you cannot take the risk today, but those are some of the practical challenges. But I think the future is here. As it said, it's unevenly distributed. And some of these things we just need to push ourselves. And what keeps us awake is thinking every day that what is it that we can teach POSCO and Baushan tomorrow, while we admire what they have done. And there comes the fact that at the end of the day, Tata Steel India is more profitable than those two companies. So we
Wow.
must be doing something right.